They say holidays are meant to bring families together, but I had to learn the most devastating lesson of my life. Some families will gladly tear you apart if it helps them secure a higher social standing. It was a beautiful, crisp autumn afternoon when my mother completely ruined my holiday, looking across the kitchen counter to tell me that my presence at our annual family gathering was no longer required. I wasn't just being left off the guest list. I was being entirely erased from the family tradition to clear a path for my sister's vanity. My name is Maya, and until that cold, calculating afternoon, I truly believed that love, loyalty, and a lifetime of devotion actually meant something to my parents. Growing up, my younger sister, Chloe, was the undisputed center of our family's universe. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, treated her like a fragile piece of art, shielding her from every hardship while indulging her every whim. I, on the other hand, was the reliable older daughter. I was the one who quietly worked my way through school, paid my own bills, and never asked for a single handout. I foolishly thought my maturity and independent lifestyle made my parents proud. But in reality, it just made me completely invisible to them. It made it effortless for them to discard me the moment Chloe demanded the entire world for herself. Chloe had recently become engaged to a man from an incredibly wealthy, old money dynasty. My parents were completely consumed by the desire to impress his aristocratic family. They decided to transform our traditional, intimate holiday dinner into an elite, high society gala at a rented historic estate. They wanted everything to scream luxury and perfection, but apparently, an ordinary daughter who worked a normal, corporate desk job and preferred simple things didn't fit into the wealthy illusion they were desperately trying to manufacture. "We just feel your presence would make things complicated, Maya," my mother said, casually checking her manicure without a hint of remorse. "Chloe's future in-laws are deeply sophisticated people. Your modest lifestyle and simple background might raise awkward questions about our family's true status. We need this holiday to be absolutely perfect for your sister's future. It's better if you stay in the city this year." My father stood silently in the background, offering no defense, completely validating her cruelty with his silence. The rejection shattered something deep inside my soul. They were ruining my holiday simply because they were ashamed of the life I had built. They viewed me as nothing more than a poor relative to be pushed out of sight. But as I stood there, watching them plan their grand illusion, a profound and heavy secret weighed on my mind. My parents had spent years treating me like an outcast, completely oblivious to the fact that their desperate quest for wealth was about to crash directly into a truth they never saw coming. The days following my exclusion were a dark, suffocating blur of profound grief and loneliness. I stayed alone in my small apartment, the silence echoing the painful reality that my own flesh and blood had tossed me aside like garbage. I watched from afar on social media as my family posted endless updates about their grand holiday preparations. They bought designer gowns, hired elite decorators, and spoke endlessly about the brilliant, wealthy destiny awaiting Chloe. My texts were completely ignored, and my calls went straight to voicemail. I was entirely exposed to the freezing reality that my family's love was strictly conditional, based purely on status and image. But deep pain has a strange way of turning into an unyielding, quiet strength. As the initial shock finally began to wear off, the heavy sadness in my heart hardened into a firm resolve. I realized I was entirely done crying for people who viewed my existence as an embarrassment. It was time to look at the reality of our legal situation, specifically the certified documents sitting quietly in my home safe. 5 years ago, my maternal grandfather passed away. He was a deeply brilliant, self-made billionaire who absolutely despised how materialistic and superficial my parents had become. He watched them spoil Chloe while entirely ignoring my hard work and dedication. Before he closed his eyes for the last time, he bypassed my parents entirely and established a massive family trust worth $15 million, strictly designated for Chloe's long-term future. But because he knew my parents were financially reckless and would spend every single cent to fund their social climbing, he added one vital, unbreakable condition. He appointed me as the sole, absolute legal guardian and trustee of the entire fortune. For years, I kept this a secret to maintain family peace, letting them believe a distant corporate firm was managing the estate. My parents, in their boundless arrogance, never bothered to read the legal fine print. They never realized that not a single penny of those $15 million could be touched, moved, or released without my explicit, notarized signature. Then came the sudden, catastrophic collapse of their beautiful illusion. Just 24 hours before the grand holiday gala, my phone rang frantically. It was Chloe, and her voice was a high-pitched gale of pure, unadulterated panic. "Maya, you have to help us right now," she screamed, completely forgetting that she hadn't spoken to me in weeks. "The high-end caterers and luxury venue managers just found out. Dad's credit lines are completely maxed out. They are threatening to lock the doors and cancel the entire holiday event right now. Mom says there is an immediate emergency release clause in grandfather's trust. You have to call the bank and authorize a $300,000 transfer this exact second." I sat back in my chair, a sudden, chilling calm washing over my entire body. They had completely ruined my holiday, yet they expected me to quietly finance the very event designed to humiliate me. They thought I was an embarrassment, completely unaware that they were standing on a financial cliff, begging the person they discarded to save them. "I'm truly sorry, Chloe," I said softly, my voice completely smooth and steady. "But as the sole guardian of that trust, I cannot approve a massive emergency withdrawal for a luxury party. It goes entirely against grandfather's strict preservation rules." The phone line went completely dead, but the quiet didn't last long. Within 20 minutes, the heavy sound of footsteps pounded down my apartment hallway. My door flew open, and Richard and Eleanor stormed inside, their faces completely twisted with a terrifying mix of absolute fury and deep desperation. "What kind of sick malice is this?" my mother shrieked, her expensive jewelry rattling as she pointed a shaking finger at me. "How dare you try to destroy your sister's future? Call the bank and release those millions immediately." Without saying a single word, I stood up, walked over to my desk, and laid the original, certified trust documents flat under the light. "Read the executor line, Mom," I said, looking her directly in the eyes without a single hint of fear. "Grandfather didn't trust your greed, and he didn't trust Chloe's maturity. I am the sole guardian of the $15 million, and after seeing how quickly you threw me away, this trust is staying entirely locked." My father's face drained of color instantly as his eyes scanned the official legal seals. The crushing reality of what they had done finally hit them like a tidal wave. They had spent months ruining my holiday and pushing me into the dark, completely blind to the fact that I held the keys to the entire empire. Suddenly, the arrogant, cruel mother vanished, replaced by a desperate woman begging for mercy. "Oh, Maya, sweetheart, please," she stammered, her voice trembling as she tried to reach for my hand. "We didn't mean those things about the holiday dinner. It was just a big misunderstanding. Of course, your family. We want you right at the center table." I stepped back, leaving her hand reaching out into the empty air. "No, Eleanor," I replied quietly. "You didn't want me when you thought I had nothing. You only want me now because you realized I guard everything. The answer is no. Your expensive party is over." They walked out of my apartment in broken, defeated silence, their grand illusions of high society completely destroyed by their own toxic vanity. Justice was served not through shouting or anger, but through the quiet, unyielding power of self-respect. The next evening, while they faced the devastating fallout of their own greed, I sat in my quiet apartment, enjoying a beautiful, peaceful holiday meal in perfect tranquility. I learned that true value doesn't come from a grand name or a -$1 million fortune. It comes from knowing your own worth. They tried to lock me out of their holiday, only to realize